We are going to continue working with our import stage of data wrangling. We've seen two different functions that we can use. We've got a CSV file, which is stored online at this location. It looks like, the raw file looks like this. And we want to import this file into R. And one way to do that is to use the read_CSV file from the reader package. And another way to do that is to use the read.csv file, which is in base R. So if I want to run this first code cell with the underscore, it requires the reader package, which is in the tidyverse. So you would need to run the library tidyverse command first. Then you'll be able to access the reader package and use this function. The read.csv, we could use this function just right once we open up an R session. We don't need to install any packages. This is in what we call base R. So when we first ran this, let's say without using this option, we got a result that looked like this. So this is just using the basic read CSV command. And we had an issue. There were a number of issues that we identified earlier. One of them was this missing value. R did not understand that the string n/a is not a food. At least it's not a food that I am familiar with. So this, rather than being somebody's favorite food, this was actually this person left that blank, and whoever entered this data entered this as n/a when they should have just entered it as na. So that was done on the data entry stage, but now we want to import it, and we want to import it encoded correctly as a missing value. So there is a nice option with read_CSV, which is NA. And this argument, we can define all of the things that we want to store as missing values. So the default is it only recognizes empty strings N and A, just the two characters NA. So if you have a blank in your data or you have an NA, it's going to read it as a missing value, encode it as an NA over here. But we want to make sure that we also encode this as a missing value. So I'm going to enter the two ways that I have missing values in my raw data. There was a missing value altogether, and then there was this NA value over here. And the way I can do that is I can enter a vector of character strings. All of these character strings are things that are going to be treated as missing values when we import them. So let's run this command with this additional option. Check out the output, and we can see that fixed the problem that we had earlier with this NA not being treated as a missing value. Now we specifically said, anytime you see this, import it as a missing value. And we can do the same with the read.csv function. Its option is not NA. I believe if you use NA, it would work anyway, but the argument is NA.strings, but otherwise it works the same. So I would enter a vector of character strings that I want to treat as NAs. And when we did the read CSV the read.csv function in base R, it missed both of these NAs. So notice the default in read.csv is it only treats NAs as NA. So it's a little less efficient. It doesn't know that an actual missing value should be an NA, but we can input those two strings as a additional argument in the read.csv functions. Now I'm going to say, hey, I've got a missing value, which was encoded as a blank. And I've got a missing value that was encoded as an N, a slash, and an A. So treat both of those things as missing values when you import this. And now you can see those were treated correctly as missing values. It might seem like those aren't coded correctly with this print command compared to how they look in the output above. That's just the way that a data frame is printed to the screen, which is what we get out of read.csv. This is a data frame as opposed to a tibble. Tibbles print out a little bit nicer. If I just said display this on screen, you can see these are indeed encoded as NA values, as missing values correctly. Although it seems like they are inside of brackets here, that's not an issue. These were properly coded as missing values on the import stage with this additional argument. And one last thing I just want to say is if you have a whole bunch of things that were used for missing values, so let's say you had like 7 different people that were importing data into a data set, and now you want to import that data set into R. And some people, when they were entering data, were using N/A. Some were leaving it blank. Some were doing -999 and other things, and only one person was encoding them correctly. You could define this vector and assign it to an object. Here I called it NA stuff. You could call it whatever you like. And then when we do the import and we set the NA argument, you could set it equal to that vector that we just created. And that might make the read CSV command a little more efficient. I mean, it works the same. It looks a little more concise. But in the end, it would work just fine. So adding these additional things over here really didn't do anything because nobody coded missing values using any of these strings in the data that we imported. We only had missing values encoded using these 2 character strings, and those we can see are now NAs on the import. Okay, thank you, everyone.